In example 9, we have a function that tells us about the number of employees for a new company, where t represents the number of months after the company is created. So after t months, how many employees has our company brought on? We want to use Wolfram Alpha to find all vertical and horizontal asymptotes for this function. To do that, we'll type in asymptotes for, and then we'll enter our function. The notation or the output that we're given here is a little bit reversed from what we're used to seeing. We're told that on the right-hand side here, or after that as statement, when t is approaching positive or negative infinity, our function value is approaching 32. So that's x approaching positive or negative infinity. In this case, that variable is just t. And then we're also told that as t approaches -2, our function value is approaching positive and negative infinity, and we can see a picture of what's happening more specifically there. But for our purposes, it's enough to kind of realize that what we have is a vertical asymptote occurring at t equals -2. And then we have end behavior coming out to be a number. So we have a horizontal asymptote at 32. So our vertical asymptote in this case would be t equals -2, which would be very similar to saying x is equal to -2. We've just changed the variable name. And then our horizontal asymptote would be at n equals 32, or stating that as an equation, y equals 32. And then we want to interpret the horizontal asymptote for this function. Again, just the horizontal asymptote, because like in our previous example, we have another piece of information in the previous step that doesn't have a lot of practical meaning. That vertical asymptote doesn't really mean a lot to us because a time of t equals -2 months, I guess we're looking in the past, but the model's not really for that. It's for predicting moving forward from when the company was founded. Looking at 2 months before the company started is kind of an impractical or irrelevant result. But we can interpret that y asymptote and say the model predicts that the company will have a maximum of 32 employees. Because as time goes on, because we're considering t headed to infinity, our function value n is headed to 32. So no matter how large t gets, no matter how much time passes, we're just going to be getting closer and closer to that function value of 32. So in this case, 32 employees.